This is the story of 9 hikers who never came back, and no one knows why. Dyatlov Pass, 1959. 9 experienced hikers cut their way out of their own tent from the inside and ran into a blizzard. Most of them were not wearing boots. The temperature was somewhere around -30. Within hours, every one of them was dead on the slope of a mountain the local people call Dead Mountain. 6 of them froze. The other 3 had injuries a forensic examiner could only compare to a high-speed car crash, crushed ribs, a fractured skull, and there was nothing on that mountain to crash into. This was the night of the 1st of February, 1959, in the northern Ural Mountains. The 9 were students and recent graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute on a trek rated at the highest difficult grade the Soviet mountaineering system assigned. People who had spent winters in country exactly like this, who knew precisely what cold could do. They left behind, in the slit-open tent, their boots, their food, their warm outer clothing, almost everything that keeps a body alive at that altitude in that season. The last photograph recovered from their cameras is a nearly black frame, exposed in the dark for a reason no one can name. Searchers would not reach the site for almost a month. The record is what we have. The record is considerable. What it does not contain is the reason. Igor Dyatlov was 23 years old and had organized the trek himself, the kind of meticulous planning that the category 3rd difficulty grade demanded. The highest the Soviet mountaineering system assigned, reserved for expeditions where experience was not optional. He had filed permits in Sverdlovsk, coordinated 10 participants, arranged the lorry to Georgiy and the route north toward Mount Ototen, across the Kholat Syakhl saddle. The pass bears his name now. It did not bear anyone's name then. It was simply a piece of terrain between them and their destination, a high, exposed shoulder of mountain with no shelter and a broad field of view in clear weather. The Mansi people of the region called the peak itself Kholat Syakhl. It translates approximately as Dead Mountain. The group's diaries give no indication that any of them found the name ominous. The final entries are cheerful. There were 10 of them when they left Georgiy on the 28th of January. Yuri was 21, an engineering student, and on that same day his knee gave out, an old problem, not a new one, and he turned back. He stood at the last point from which turning back was reasonable, and he watched his 9 friends move north into the snow, and he went home. He was the last living person to see them. He would outlive them by 54 years, dying in 2013, still making visits to the pass, still carrying the particular weight of the man who was supposed to be there. The group continued. They cached surplus food and equipment on the 31st of January, a standard technique for ski treks, a depot called a labaz to supply the return leg. And on the 1st of February, they ascended the eastern slope of Kholat Syakhl. The diary entries stopped there. The photographs stopped there. One of the recovered cameras held a final image that showed the group pitching the tent in fading afternoon light on the open slope, some of them laughing. The next frame is the dark one. The forensic examiner would later estimate the time of death at some point between 9 in the evening and 5 in the morning, on the night between the 1st and 2nd of February. The tent was found on the 26th of February by searchers who had begun looking 6 days earlier, when the group failed to return to Sverdlovsk on their expected date of the 12th. It was half collapsed under drifted snow on the slope where the last photographs showed it pitched at roughly 1,000 meters elevation, exposed on 3 sides. The cuts in the canvas ran from the inside outward. The pathologists and investigators noted this clearly. The fabric bunched in the way fabric bunches when a blade opens it from the side with purchase, not the side under tension. Whoever cut it was inside when they cut it. The skis, the food, the boots, the outer clothing, most of the group's equipment, still inside. 9 sets of footprints, documented by searchers before the next snowfall obscured them, descended the slope toward the forest. The first 2 bodies were found the same day as the tent, approximately 1.5 kilometers downhill, at a large Siberian cedar tree at the edge of the forest. Yuri Doroshenko, 21, and Georgiy Krivonischenko, 23, were in their underwear. There were burns on Krivonischenko's hands and feet. Branches were broken on the cedar up to 5 meters above the ground. Someone had climbed it in the dark, in that cold, in insufficient clothing, and the forensic interpretation is that they were trying to see something, or get above something, or get a bearing on the tent. There was a small fire pit at the cedar's base. It had not kept them alive. 3 more were found along the slope between the cedar and the tent over the following days. Igor Dyatlov himself, lying face upward with his head toward the tent, as though he had been trying to return. Zinaida Kolmogorova, face downward, head also toward the tent, a long baton-shaped bruise across her lower back. Rustem Slobodin, who had a 6-centimeter fracture in his skull and was wearing 1 boot. The pathologist's finding on Slobodin was that the skull fracture was present, but was unlikely to have killed him quickly. He died, the record says, of hypothermia, the fracture a complicating factor. He was found with 1 bare foot in -35-degree weather, 200 meters below the tent he may have been trying to reach. The last 4 were not found until the 4th of May, under approximately 4 meters of snow in a ravine 70 meters east of the cedar. They had built something, a rough den of branches and snow, a deliberate construction, not a drift. Alexander Kolevatov, 24, the most experienced traveler in the group, was found with his arms around Semyon Zolotaryov, 38, a Second World War veteran who was the oldest member and the only one not enrolled at the Polytechnic. Lyudmila Dubinina, 20, was found kneeling, face against a boulder. Nikolai Thibeaux-Brignolles was beside her. The autopsies of the Ravine 4 are where the record becomes hardest to hold at a distance. Dubinina had bilateral rib fractures, multiple ribs on both sides, broken. Zolotaryov's ribs were crushed on one side. Thibeaux-Brignolles had depressed fractures across multiple skull bones with no corresponding laceration on the scalp. The bone had been driven inward without breaking the skin above it. The forensic examiner compared the force required to the deceleration trauma of a high-speed vehicle collision. There were no external wounds that matched the internal ones. The investigator noted this. The file noted this. Then the file was classified. The investigation was closed in late May of 1959. The official finding was death by a compelling natural force. No further elaboration was entered into the record. The files were sealed, and they remained sealed for decades. And in that absence, the speculation accumulated the way snow accumulates, slowly, in layers, until the original ground is no longer visible. What the opened files eventually confirmed is this. The clothing of Krivonischenko, who had worked at the Mayak nuclear facility before the trek, tested positive for radioactive contamination, traced, in later analysis, to residue from his work clothes, not to anything at the site. The orange spheres reported by multiple witnesses in the area that winter were almost certainly ballistic missile tests, which is why the reports were suppressed. The missing soft tissue documented on some of the ravine victims is consistent with 3 months of partial submersion in a stream, which is what the forensic record shows. The sensational readings of those details are not supported by the physical evidence. The physical evidence is already enough. In 2019, Russia reopened the case. In July of 2020, the official conclusion was issued. A slab avalanche and katabatic wind, a delayed collapse of compacted snow onto the tent, the group cutting their way out in zero visibility and fleeing downhill before the conditions allowed them to orient themselves. In 2021, researchers at EPFL and ETH Zurich published a computational model demonstrating that a delayed slab avalanche on a slope as shallow as 23 degrees could, under the right conditions of snow density and tent geometry, produce the kind of force that would create the ravine injuries without leaving external marks on the skin. The model fits. It fits most of it. The slope where the tent was pitched, at 23 degrees, is at the marginal edge of what typically produces avalanche conditions. The searchers who reached the site in February noted no debris field. There is no record of displaced snow around the tent, consistent with a large slab release. Those searchers were not forensic glaciologists, and 3 weeks of Ural winter weather had passed between the incident and their arrival. The computational model requires specific snow conditions to produce the results it produces. Whether those conditions existed on the night of the 1st of February is not recorded, because no one was there to record them. This is the shape of what remains. 9 people who had spent winters in the Urals decided, for a reason that died with them, to camp on an exposed slope instead of descending to the tree line. Whatever happened in the tent happened quickly enough, or was frightening enough, that they left their boots. They organized themselves in the cold. The clothing found on the ravine, victims had been redistributed, cut from the dead and given to those still living, which is rational behavior, methodical behavior, the opposite of blind panic. They built a shelter. Some of them tried to return to the tent. None of them made it. Yuri visited the pass many times before he died. He said in interviews toward the end of his life that he had spent decades trying to find in the available evidence some fact that would make the picture complete, some detail that would close what the investigators had left open. The pass is still called Dyatlov Pass. The mountain is still called Dead Mountain. The tent is long gone, but the cedar tree is still standing, and the slope above it is still bare. And on a clear February night, the stars over the northern Urals are numerous and very cold and entirely indifferent to what happened beneath them and to what we are still unable to say. If this one got under your skin, subscribe. Conspiracy Comix cracks open a new mystery every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Don't read the next one alone.